What is liberty? In Parashot Behar, we read one of the most iconic phrases in the entire Torah. Ukratem dror ba'aretz lechol yoshveha. Every time I translate this verse and ask my young students, in what famous American monument is this text inscribed? They stare at me blanking, and it never rings a bell. Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all its inhabitants. Leviticus 25:10. These words are famously inscribed on the Liberty Bell, a powerful symbol of American independence. Cast in 1752, it rang out to announce the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. Yet, before these words rang out in Philadelphia, they resounded from Mount Sinai, a divine command that linked freedom to holiness, justice, and community. This verse was chosen by those early American visionaries who saw in the Bible a blueprint for moral governance. The biblical vision of liberty, though ancient, was deeply resonant in a new world struggling for its own soul. However, in Torah, this proclamation wasn't made by a bell. It was made by shofar. In the Jubilee year you shall sound the shofar throughout the land, says Leviticus 25, verse 9. The shofar is an alarm. It's a bugle call to wake up, a sound that pierces complacency and summons courage. The Jubilee shofar was a communal announcement that God is the owner of time, land, and life. What does it mean to proclaim liberty in Jewish terms? The Torah's vision of freedom is revolutionary. Not just freedom from oppression, but freedom for human dignity. In the Yovel, the Jubilee year, the land is returned to its original owners, slaves are set free, debts are forgiven. It's not just a personal reset, but a systemic correction, a sacred redistribution that prevents the entrenchment of poverty and power. This is not freedom for the few, but liberty for all who dwell in the land. In Jewish thought, true freedom, dror, is not the absence of obligation, it's the presence of justice. The Torah teaches that a free society is one where no one is permanently enslaved and no family is permanently dispossessed. Freedom in Judaism is not a solitary privilege, but a shared and sacred responsibility. As Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch wrote, freedom is conceived in the Torah not the license to do as one pleases, it is the ability to do what is right. Liberty is the condition that allows people to live according to their moral and divine purpose. In Judaism, liberty is not just a political value, it's a spiritual mission. 41 days ago, we were celebrating Pesach, in which the central motif of this foundational holiday is we were slaves in Egypt, and every generation must see itself as if we, too, were personally redeemed. In 1 week, we will be arriving at Shavuot, where we have been counting 7 weeks, 7 times 7. And so, we also count 7 cycles, 7 years, and 7 times 7 years, building towards Jubilee. That parallel is not coincidence. Just as the Jubilee cycle restores social and economic balance, the counting of the Omer restores spiritual balance. It takes 7 full weeks of internal preparation to reach Shavuot, the moment of revelation. Perhaps this can teach us that liberty, both personal and communal, requires intentional time and spiritual effort. We don't stumble into freedom, we build our way up towards it, step by step. Freedom is not a static possession. Freedom is a rhythm. Shabbat is the weekly liberation of the soul, and the Jubilee is its societal counterpart. The Torah offers a vision of cyclical justice. Every 7th day, every 7th year, every 7 times 7 years, there's a reset, a redistribution, a reminder that everything ultimately belongs to God. What does it mean to proclaim liberty in 2025? It means standing against systems that still enslave, human trafficking, mass incarceration, economic structures that crush the poor and reward exploitation, spiritual emptiness masked by material excess. The proclaimed liberty in our time is to resist moral numbness and economic injustice. A society that forgets its moral obligations loses its freedom even while appearing free. In other words, liberty without justice is merely illusion. We also proclaim liberty by building compassionate communities. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel once wrote, "In a free society, some are guilty, but all are responsible." This is the Jubilee ethic, that liberty isn't fully achieved until it is shared. In 2025, proclaiming liberty might mean advocating for affordable housing, mental health resources, or racial and economic justice. It might mean standing up for someone being silenced or accompanying someone through a dark chapter of their life. And here's a question I'd always like to ask. How would Moses vote? Well, the Torah might just be 1/7 radical socialist. It mandates the redistribution of land, the forgiveness of debts, and liberation of slaves. But the other 6 parts? They lean toward individual responsibility, stewardship, and enterprise. The Torah gives us a spiritual economic model of balance, a cycle where justice and compassion check the excesses of the market, and where freedom is protected by the rhythm of sacred time. It's not about left or right. It aims towards a sacred center. A system designed not to accumulate unchecked power, but to make space for every soul to breathe free. Each of us has a bell to ring, a shofar to sound. Each of us can be a vessel and become the echoes of God's voice in a world that still waits to be freed. Let us proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants.